All right, everyone. Steve Metrics here with ya boy.
DJ Triggs.
And together we are No Debate Sports. And how about that, Triggs? Last week of the NFL season feels like we started like 2 days ago.
Oh, my goodness. I'm not going to lie. I feel like it dragged a little bit in December. And then all of a sudden it was like end of December. Oh, playoffs. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Push.
Yep. And it's like kind of pretty much like the other day, it felt like the Steelers were like 13-2, and now they've lost every game since then.
Yep. And now they don't exist anymore. So
they do exist. But in our hearts.
Yeah.
In our hearts, Triggs.
Mostly.
That's where the Steelers are.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the playoffs, but it's like, man, can you stop just getting beat by teams?
And I don't think they can, man. And to me, like, I know this week is a real big debate going on in real life, well, in like sports life, of people saying like, should you start players? Should you rest players? I think it's quite simple. If you are not a team that has a first round bye, maybe you basically should treat this like a preseason game. You should maybe start them a little bit, but you should definitely get ready to rest your guys for the postseason, which is going to be an all-out war on both sides, whether it's the AFC or the NFC. It's going to be tough. So seeing these teams like doing what the Steelers did yesterday, to me, is absolutely the wrong play.
See, I'm both ways on this, right? Because, yeah, you want to rest guys if you can, but at the same time, these guys are ready to play 16, 17 games a season. Like, yeah, they get injuries and stuff like that, but your mindset is, hey, practice, they have their schedules, they're creatures of habit. So, like, they're ready to practice, they do their off day, they do this, then they practice, then they light practice, and then Saturday they do walkthroughs, and then Sunday they're ready to play. And it's like taking that week away from them, that's where teams come from buys and they're horrible the next week. And they're like, oh, well, they messed up their schedule. Or the teams that play on like Thursday, and then they get that extra little bit of preparation, and they're off a little bit, and you're like, oh, well, what happened? Oh, well, they had a shortened week. Oh, they had a long week. Oh, they had to come from overseas, and this
right.
Messing up a player's like preparation and schedule can sometimes do a disastrous situation at the end. I don't really know how I'm thinking it out loud, but like the Steelers technically had a chance at the division until the Ravens won, but they were prepared to play. So like they're getting amped up, ready to go 3-4 hours before the game, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, well, you don't have anything to play for anymore. Taking that away from you, like, that's tough. They're coming off of that high of getting ready to go play. You're doing your warm-ups outside. Right. You're doing your thing, and all of a sudden someone goes, hey, by the way, we don't have to play now. Well, I bet you most of those guys were like, well, can I still play? Like, I'm ready to go.
Right.
Like,
yeah, I think you're spot on with the fact that they basically got kind of thrown out of their routine by saying that game started and then they had nothing to play for, essentially.
Yeah.
I almost feel like that might have been the wrong kind of, or maybe the timing of the games were different. I think they probably should have put that game in the early time slot and then put the Ravens Steelers game in the later time spot because of it meaning more.
Yeah,
I just think it felt backwards.
And honestly, I think they should have played it at the same time. Like
that too. That's how they do on Sundays.
Yeah, if it meant so much for the division, these games could have got flexed to Sunday, and no one would have cared, like they would have been like, oh, well, all right, extra games on Sunday. This is what we're used to. Because you go from one game where, and now this is kind of what bugged me about yesterday's game. And I mean, I think you probably think the same way, but they played what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, and they went from 44-38 in a high scoring battle where
Yep.
Russell Wilson put up 403 touchdowns, Burrow put up 303 touchdowns, and like they went tooth and nail back and forth. Like everybody was scoring. I mean, it was 27-21 at halftime, and then yesterday we get Joe Burrow's got 277 and a touchdown. Russell Wilson's got 148 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
They barely, I mean, Najee Harris was the leading rusher. He had 36 yards.
That
Like,
guy should never be the leading rusher.
and not even that, but the Bengals defense is horrible. You're telling
Oh,
me
it's trash.
yesterday was the first day that they were like, let's lock in. Here we go. No, absolutely
No,
not.
not at all. To me, it just showed me how inept that Pittsburgh offense is. I mean, basically every drive that Cincinnati did, I'm accustomed to with a lot of the Raider games I've experienced, where basically they just drove down the field, got to the goal line, and got stopped. But never for 1 second did they really think, hey, let's really go for it, because they knew if they stacked field goals together, Pittsburgh was so inept on offense that those stacked field goals would essentially equate to multiple touchdown scoring possessions required from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they just couldn't do it. They knew they couldn't do it.
Right. And that's gonna be a problem. Like you just said earlier, I mean they've lost to the Eagles by double digits, the Ravens by double digits, the Chiefs by double digits, and then they just lost to the Bengals. And it's like you lost four in a row where you were on a high. I mean,
Yeah,
there was times in this season where you're like, well, 4 or 5 weeks ago, they had beaten the Ravens, so they had the tiebreaker. And
right.
most people are like, whoa, Russell Wilson's got them cooking, let Russ cook. And then
Yeah,
all of a sudden they played playoff teams, and it was like, oh, whoops.
they're not yet. I mean, if we take records away and actually look at teams like you're looking at them, I think we can kind of look at Pittsburgh and say they're probably a team that ideally should not be at the playoffs, but should be like really close to making it in. And
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen here is they are going to come in as a wild card. They may or may not win that first game against the Texans, and they will get shellacked by Kansas City.
yeah. And I mean, think about the beginning of the season, just looking at their schedule. Okay, they beat the Broncos 13-6.
Yeah,
Okay, the
Broncos weren't
Broncos
ready yet.
they weren't ready, right? Uh, they end up beating the Raiders. They beat the Jets. They beat the Giants. They squeaked out a win against the Commanders. They got an 18-16 win over the Ravens. Then they beat the Bengals in that high scoring game. And they
Yep.
beat the Browns. Well, you look at that schedule, I would hope they came out of that with,
10 wins.
seven. Yeah, not it's I think it's eight, maybe. What
Yeah.
are we looking at here?
It's a lot of
Nine.
wins.
There was nine.
Yeah.
9-3. And then all of a
Yep.
sudden you play against the Eagles, the Ravens, who are on a tear now, the Chiefs, who've only lost one game, and this desperate Bengals team. Yeah, you lose all of those.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it just speaks volumes. The other thing, too, that I saw with this game, and I mean, I don't know what's going on, but like George Pickens dropped countless balls yesterday. And
Yeah.
I also feel too that, I mean, both sides of the football, to me, both of their offenses looked a little wonky to a degree. And I do feel like partly the weather and maybe the time of day, like having this be like just bone chilling cold at night, I think that kind of gets in the head of some of these guys if they're not acclimated to it, considering for the most part, it's been a fairly warm football season until like now. So I think that shock factor kind of played a factor last night. But then again, too, like when you look at a team like Pittsburgh with George Pickens, I feel like he's kind of getting that Drake London effect where it's like, great, if I'm Cincinnati, let's let Van Jefferson kill us. If we
Yep.
put all our focus on George Pickens, it's not going to happen. I think they are kicking themselves for getting rid of Deontay Johnson. I still don't understand it. I mean, in a way, Carolina's not really kicking themselves because they got compensation and they're kind of rebuilding. But I think both teams regret getting rid of Deontay Johnson. I think Deontay is a heck of a receiver that is in this weird end of season funk and should really be on a really good NFL team right now because George Pickens is just getting decimated by basically being the lone actual target outside of like Pat Fryermuth, to be honest, who's working the slot.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that name. Pat Fryermuth had 11 targets in this game, and he had 7 the game before. Well, Mike Williams had 1 target yesterday.
Yeah, it was the one great catch.
And like he was a big acquisition that they brought in where they're like, oh man, here's Mike Williams, big target here. Well, okay. Compare that to Van Jefferson and Cordero Patterson and Calvin Austin, who had a combined 8 targets the last game. And you're like, okay, well, what happened? Like we literally had 4 guys catch passes yesterday.
Right. And to me, like Pittsburgh keeps like running the wheel on bringing back borderline 2 to number 3 wideouts from their previous existing teams, and they don't hit. Deontay Johnson was borderline number 1 for Pittsburgh. To send him packing, I think it's really catching up to them. They were on the verge of building something really nice with Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, and probably figuring out that third spot, which was for a while they were running what's his name from the LA Rams, who was a Jacksonville Jaguar before that. I want to say Robinson was his name, something like that. Something Robinson. But he used to be an outside big DK Metcalf kind of threat. Ended up playing the slot for Pittsburgh, but it just never really like quite developed and really had that consistency that the Steelers offense was looking for. So I feel like if they would have, I mean, again, too, the guy they had back in the day that kind of did that was Juju Smith-Schuster. I think they're really trying to build something with like George Pickens, Deontay Johnson outside, and then hit another Juju Smith-Schuster in the slot. But none of that ever happened, and now they've stripped it all away. They thought they had it in Kenny Pickett. This offense, to me, is just completely stale, and Arthur Smith is trying to work it as best as he can, but he just doesn't have the players to make it happen. It's George Pickens. It's got to be a healthy Jaylen Warren and Pat Fryermuth. That is not enough to score a lot of points in today's NFL playoffs.
No, not with the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Ravens. Like those teams are ready to put up points in bunches if they have to.
Yeah. And yesterday too. Oh yeah, go ahead, bud.
Allen Robinson. That's his name.
Allen Robinson. Yes. Yeah. I like Allen Robinson. Really had some really unfortunate just devastating leg injuries that kind of caught up to him. But he's a good guy.
He's the number 1 that was in Chicago. I was like, that sounds familiar. Man, what happened to him?
So you're right. So he played in Chicago for a little bit. I did not remember that.
Couple 1,000-yard seasons in like 19 and 20. That's why I was like, I had to go look back. I was like, wait, is this the same guy I'm thinking about? And I didn't know that he played with the Rams, Pittsburgh. He's actually in Detroit right now.
Oh, wow. If he's in Detroit, good for him, man. Yeah, that's really nice. I mean, between Detroit getting him and then picking up what's his name from the Denver Broncos. They got some
Patrick.
Yeah, Tim Patrick. They have some really, really nice receivers there that if guys go down, those guys can step in and they can definitely produce. So I like that with what's going on in Detroit, but Pittsburgh would absolutely kill for that.
He's only 31 years old. I thought he was a lot
Yeah.
older than that.
Well, when you have the devastating leg injuries that he had after his breakout season in Jacksonville, that it really took a step back with him
Well, I
outside of
mean,
those nice years in Chicago.
yeah, like wow, like he's only had 3 receptions this season. He's
Yeah.
played 12 games, but I didn't even know this guy was still in the league after Chicago.
Yeah.
Completely forgot he was with the Rams or Pittsburgh. So
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of blew
yeah,
my
that's
mind.
exactly. Yeah, I'm the opposite. I forgot he was in Chicago, and I remember these recent years of him trying to, like, revitalize himself from
Yeah,
Jackson. So so yeah, that's cool. But yeah, good for him making money. That yeah, got some longevity to him. So that's pretty much all you can ask for in the NFL. Anything beyond that is just frosting on the cake.
yeah. I do like cake. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Okay, yeah,
Speak, Speaking of frosting on the cake, though, watch
okay,
how I watch the segue. Ready?
yeah. Let's do it.
The Ravens had their cake and ate it too.
Yes, they did.
They
And
basically won the division by like, hey, we'll give you the like 20th string quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Oh, by the
yeah.
way, during the game we'll take him out too, just because he's horrible as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I remember last season there was a game I watched and he threw 3 interceptions in a game. And I knew that the game yesterday, I was like, he's gonna throw another like 3 interceptions. He probably almost threw 5.
right out of the
Yeah.
gate, a pick six though. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this game's over. Like,
Oh yeah, totally, totally. No, I knew that was gonna happen. And I think it just showed that like how they completely became susceptible to in-house politics. The Deshaun Watson stuff is just bleeding over to their
yeah,
coaching staff and their general managers' decisions. This is a just horrendous, toxic situation that if they would have gone into the season focused and under the momentum and the veteran leadership of Joe Flacco, I think this team would borderline be a playoff team. I think we'd again be looking at the AFC North pushing almost 4 teams into the playoffs.
yeah. I mean, like, I I don't even have words almost for this team. I seen a fun stat that like I think since the like 2020 or whenever, or not 2020, 2000, when they came over or whatever, when they switched,
Yeah. Yep.
um they've had 40 starting quarterbacks.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's just a boatload of quarterbacks, and it shouldn't be that long.
I mean, they've had 4 this season.
Yeah. But really, I mean, it should have been basically one and maybe a second if Joe Flacco got hurt.
Yeah.
That's what it should have been. And I was completely flabbergasted that they turned the page from Joe Flacco. I thought that was a terrible decision.
Yeah. I
The
why
moment I heard it.
it was almost like, and I mean, maybe they did it on purpose because they were like, hey, let's just throw this season away. Joe Flacco gives us way too much of a chance to win, which I can't believe I'm saying that out
You
loud.
you can't do that. That was a
But
good team last year.
yeah, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they were like, hey, Chubb is hurt. We're not gonna have a running game. Let's Amari Cooper's basically a shell of himself. Let's just kind of just throw it all in and hope for the best. I mean, they got rid of guys on defense. They just, I don't know. Something was wrong. Like,
I
something
Yeah,
was definitely wrong.
and I definitely got to disagree with you on the fact that you said that they basically just are okay with throwing a season away. And with what I've been seeing, especially in today's NFL, I think pretty much every coach in the NFL basically gets a 3 season clock, and you either get the opportunity to reset that clock or you do consistently lose time off it. And if it goes really bad, or you have a chaotic owner like uh, Woody Johnson with the Jets, or the owner of the Carolina Panthers, that clock can speed up rapidly. Cleveland is another team that has a crazy owner, to be honest. Stefanski just won Coach of the Year last season. He had this drastic change in wins and losses. And if he does it again next season, I could really see them cleaning house on everybody with the Cleveland Browns. And that is just shocking to me. I don't think that should have happened so quickly. But it shows you how things work in the NFL. And to me, it really speaks volumes that if you're a GM or a coach, you have to flip a team quick. And if I really look at a team that's kind of like that to me, I started to think about that clock. But I think they absolutely reset it, and they're going in a really good direction now, is the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos going into the season, I think we're starting to say, hey, we're going to give Sean Payton this year and next season, and if he can't figure it out after 2 more years, he's out. So that, to me, is that 3-year clock. Now Sean Payton is going well, so now his clock is totally resetting that Sean Payton is going to have another 3 years after this season. So that's what I see, and I hate seeing what's going on in Cleveland right now because I like the GM, I like the coach, but this is a awful move that they both decided in favor of politics.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like I assume they're not throwing a season away, but maybe they just like a quarterback in this draft class that they think, oh, we can do something with that guy, but you never know what these GMs and owners and guys like that are looking for.
They're going to have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at it from the record standpoint, I mean, they have the worst record in the league right now.
Right now. However, they're about to get caught more than likely by probably. What do you think?
They're tied. They're tied with Tennessee, New England, and the Giants.
So we'll talk about games in a little bit. I think, honestly, one, maybe two of those other teams are going to get tied with them.
Yeah, I agree. All of them will, but New England doesn't need a quarterback.
I don't think all of them will.
Well, New England doesn't need a quarterback, though, so that's out of the window. Yep. And there's 2 or 3 really good prospects out there that everyone's kind of taking for. So, worst case scenario, they get the third guy. Like at least they get someone that they're taking for. And if I'm not mistaken, though, I thought the Giants winning last week, didn't they like lose the tiebreaker or something? So even if they tie, they're like 3rd or 4th.
So I'll post a link on this a little bit later on Twitter. I'm looking at tankathon.com, and the way the NFL processes the draft order is it's basically a giant cluster of teams that share the same record. There is no crazy NFL tie-breaking procedure as far as I know. The way this looks outside of the playoff losses is basically it goes head to head, and the weaker you are in terms of strength of schedule, the higher you move up in draft order when you are tied with other teams with identical win-loss records.
Okay.
So
the Giants automatically are 4th. That's probably why they were 4th. So Cleveland gets a top 2 quarterback. They either get Cam Ward or what is it, Shador?
Yeah, actually, you know what? Now that you talk about this, like I think there might be more going into it. There might be some weird head-to-head breakers. There might be something weird going on. But other than that, you are right that it's either Shador Sanders or Cam Ward, which tells me if you're the 3rd team on this ranking that isn't the New England Patriots, you're not getting your quarterback.
No. And this is going to sound weird, but they could. I've been kind of trying to do some research on Watson. They could get rid of him and take his salary cap number off somehow, but it says the league would probably reject the transaction. Um,
Yeah.
and they've reworked his salary, so he's going to be voided by 2026 is what I'm looking at.
Okay.
So they would give him the 46 million up front that they still have to guarantee him, and then they would get hit with dead cap charges, but he would fall off after 2026.
Yeah, so I know basically they're from what I've heard, they're pretty much financially strapped to him for the fact that the dead cut cap money basically would bankrupt their 53-man roster essentially. Like
Yeah.
they would not be able to field, they would basically be able to only field 30 players for a given game because they wouldn't have enough money to pay league minimum on other Cleveland Brown players.
So the only season that would hit him with the big dead cap would be 2027. That'd be 89 million.
Well, what
But
about next year? Next year, I think would be devastating.
so next year, if they restructure him after the second day of the league year, he would only
Okay.
be at 37 million, which is a lot easier to eat up than what they have to.
But what
And
about the
then,
dead cap? It's the dead cap money that's just horrendous.
yeah, the dead cap would be 37. Then it'd be 46, and then it would be 89 in 2027.
Yeah. So would that mean that they would get hit with the dead cap money plus what he's owed for the season in
No,
terms of
no.
guaranteed?
That dead cap would go to him because he's
Oh,
only
okay.
owed like 100 and something now. I say only, but
Right.
um, they just restructured him. So like it's a lot of financial like mumbo jumbo, to be
Yeah,
honest.
it is. It is.
Um, he's at 11% of the cap right now. If they've
Right.
once he's voided after 2025. So what they did was they restructured the signing bonus
Sure.
and kind of voided his base salary. Because even
Okay.
before he was only making a base salary of like $1 million, it was all guaranteed like sign-in bonus.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I can see that happening. I think the main thing that's going on with Cleveland is they gotta be at that top of that draft. I mean, I like Dorian Thompson Robinson, but man, he had a wide open throw that was just completely missed, and
Yeah.
it looked bad, man. It was like okay, I saw the throw and I'm like, all right, cool, he's gonna complete this first down. Let's keep the chains moving and let's see how this goes. But it's at the point now where it's like, man, I know we picked Aiden O'Connell instead of him, and so did a lot of other teams by passing on Dorian Thompson Robinson, and it showed yesterday. It showed that, like, man, he is miles behind other guys that were in that same draft class.
Yeah. That's sometimes it's tough to see players like that where you're just like, oh man, I thought this guy could be better.
Yeah, totally, totally. No, that's exactly where I was at. And it is what it is. So I think you're right that Cleveland basically has to land a quarterback in this draft. And on top of that, they should really be looking at getting back like a Joe Flacco or someone. But then again, too, like there's going to be options in this offseason. I think free agency for quarterback is going to be just like crazy fun. Going to be a
Yeah.
crazy shuffle of guys bouncing all over the place. I mean, Minnesota's in a really unique situation. They could unload one of their other guys that isn't Sam Darnold, and it can benefit them in various ways, whether it's Daniel Jones or JJ McCarthy. So you have that going on,
You,
and then you
you-
have yeah,
I'm sorry
then
to
you
laugh,
yeah,
but
it's
like,
true.
no, the best part of that whole sentence is anybody but Sam Darnold. Listen, like
It
how
is.
crazy is that? Like
It's
6 months
crazy.
ago, we'd have been like, Sam, wait, is that guy that got cut by the Jets? Now it's
It
like
is.
Sam Darnold's like top five
Yeah.
for MVP. Like,
Totally,
what?
totally, man. Like I know, to be honest, like in Carolina, he looked a little bit better, but when he went to the 49ers, Shanahan talked him up pretty well. And Kevin O'Connell said, bring him in and let's see what we can do with it. And it worked. So yeah, he's coming back from the dead, kind of Carson Palmer, kind of Kurt Warner-ish, and I love it. But on top of that, guys are going to move. Russell Wilson's going to move. Kirk Cousins will be out there. Aaron Rodgers will be out there, and Daniel Jones will be out there. Those are at least 4 guys I can think about. Derek Carr might be another one that might be on the move. That could potentially be 5 guys that, if you're a fringe organization that's developing someone, could be out there. And I have a sneaky, so like me being a Raider, I have a sneaky conspiracy theory that could work. But again, too, this basically this is like life or death for Antonio Pierce, should he remain the head coach after today. If Devontae Adams still owns a place in Vegas. He does. He still owns his house in Vegas. What if after this season, what if the Jets unload Aaron Rodgers and he and Devontae both go to the Raiders on team-friendly deals?
I'm not against it. I just started looking at players that are free agents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's not the worst thing in the world, but at the same time, would you rather have Aaron Rodgers now with Devontae Adams in Vegas for maybe a year or two, or do you go and get, a Jalen Milroe from Alabama or a Carson Beck from Georgia? Like, there's some other players, a Quinn Ewers from Texas. There's some other quarterbacks around that they might not be the sexy pick, but Quinn Ewers could be a dude.
Yeah, I think you're totally right about that. The poise that he had after coming in, after he got banged up, and then Arch Manning just totally balled out and really kind of took his spot. But then the fact that Sark went back to Quinn Ewers and Quinn Ewers continued to ball out is crazy impressive. And if you're an NFL scout or a GM, that's something you're looking at. That's adversity. That's major adversity. That's like Jalen Hurts adversity coming into the league, sitting behind Carson Wentz, and just kind of knowing that your day is going to come and you're really going to show. I think you're spot on with Quinn Ewers. The craziness will be figuring out is, are teams going to value that in the second round, or will they push up and trade up and over trade into the first round? And I kind of think you might be onto something, that you might have more than just Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward going in the first round. Because of how much, we pointed out last season, there was basically a third of the league was looking for a quarterback. I think we are absolutely at that number again, of basically a third of the NFL looking for their future quarterback.
Yeah, Derek Carr getting maybe cut, Rodgers, Cousins getting cut, Russell Wilson could be, he's a free agent. Maybe Geno Smith gets moved. Like, there's some spots around the league. Maybe the only spot that is locked up is Sam Darnold's spot. And what if the Vikings come to him with a low ball offer? I'm actually seeing a projection for him at 3 for $114 million, which is, that's a pretty good pay bump.
Totally.
Like, what if someone walks up and says, "Hey, we'll give you $45 million"? Would Sam Darnold say no?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly. That's totally the case. I think he's part of that case of where you are strapped to the success of the coaches that you are paired with, though. He's not a guy that can just show up on any team and make it work. He's got to be showing up on either the Vikings, the Green Bay Packers, the San Francisco 49ers, the Cincinnati Bengals, the LA Rams. He can basically only go, in my eyes, to any of those 5 teams and continue the success he has now, because these guys all speak the same language. They're all friends with each other. They're all part of that same coaching tree. It has to be one of those 5 teams, maybe Denver, because Sean Payton's great at coaching anyone. Same thing with Kansas City. But that's kind of where it basically lies. And those two are both West Coast offense guys as well. So
True.
it has to be one of those 7 teams that Sam Darnold would go to. But on top of that, not all of those 7 are looking at a quarterback for the future. So
Now,
that's where it falls short.
if you want to go down conspiracy theorist,
Tinfoil hat time. Oh, we got to
right,
make that a segment.
tinfoil.
That's a project that we have to make for the future, DJ Triggs.
That's not a bad
We have to
idea.
make tinfoil hat conspiracy time.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers kind of blew it with the Jets. There was a quarterback that left Green Bay that went to the Jets, kind of blew it. Then he went to Minnesota and got to the NFC title game. So I'm just saying, maybe the Vikings they were like, oh, the Sam Darnold experiment actually worked, but we were kind of waiting for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
Who
but
knows?
at this point, I would take all 3 of the quarterbacks on Minnesota right now ahead of Aaron Rodgers.
I would, well, not all 3. I might take him over 2 of those, but like maybe they were just like biding their time, going, well, we were waiting for Aaron Rodgers. We're glad Sam Darnold did his thing, but can we trust that he's going to go for 4,000, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 2 seasons in a row? Maybe.
I think so. Yeah, as long as you're keeping the head coach and the offensive coordinator, they absolutely should stay consistent and should translate season to season. But I think a big negative red flag that is flying towards Aaron Rodgers right now is he's essentially held 2 different organizations hostage, and it's gone badly in both. It has gone badly in Green Bay, and it went very bad in New York. And there's no excuse for it going bad in New York.
Hey, I'm with you, but conspiracy theories, they
right.
the conspiracy theorist in me is like, I don't know, this is setting up the exact same way. And literally, if you remember that Jets run that Brett Favre was on, like the first game he threw 6 touchdowns, and everybody was like, "Oh man, we let go of Brett Favre. We got this stupid kid over here that we don't even know his name, and he looks funny. He's from California." And we were like, "Oh." Then all of a sudden the season happened, and he was 9-7, and everyone's like, "Okay, that's fine." And then he went to Minnesota, and if it wasn't for what was that, Greg Williams,
sure,
in New Orleans with
the Bounty Gate,
the Bounty Gate, he was like 1 quarter away from being in the Super Bowl.
He was, yeah. And I remember I was repping a basketball game that Saturday, watching that game on a mini TV in a back office. It was cool. Like it had all of the elements of a cool factor for a game. And I was pretty bummed out that Greg Williams just headhunted for him, and man, that sucked.
Yeah, that was a sad way to see him go out like that. But I mean, hey, he was gunslinging, like that's what we're here for. We're here for gunslinging.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you that, man. Like, hey, give me the Mr. ESPN 30 for 30. Give me Jameis Winston, 30 touchdowns, 30 INTs, and 6,000 yards. I'm all about that.
So just a quick breakdown of Favre went from 13-3 with the Packers, threw for 4,100, 28 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Pretty solid year.
Totally.
He went to the Jets. He fell off 700 yards. He had 22 touchdowns, 22 interceptions.
Oof.
That next year, so now everyone thinks he's washed, right? Next year he goes to Minnesota, has probably the best season of his entire life. 4,200, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions.
Yeah. Those are numbers that in today's NFL this season would be top 5.
Yeah. Yep. Those are better than his MVP seasons, to be honest.
Yeah. It's why kind of too, like yesterday I watched I think it was the Ravens game, and they posted MVP comparisons between him and Josh Allen. And just like you did the other week, it's like, dude, there is no single reason why we should be discussing Josh Allen in the MVP race. it should really be either Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow. But again, after
Yeah.
last night, I think it's just a slam dunk that it's just Lamar Jackson, and it's nowhere near close to anyone else.
Yeah. I'm still confused on how that's even a thing, but
It makes that, like, why are we comparing gold medal to bronze medal? That's where I'm at with this.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it.
Yeah,
Literally the best way to
that's
put it.
that's no debate.
None, no
Done.
debate at all.
Yeah. So that's where we're at, looking at those things going on with high end players and guys potentially moving all over the place. What else you got, DJ Triggs?
Man, I'm kind of I know we're thinking about this, but I'm over the college football playoffs.
I kind of am too, man, and I'm really upset at how poorly placed they put some of these teams. And then there were like two teams in, like Clemson. I know they won the ACC, but that looked weird. And Indiana, like how like I thought Miami was like a top 4 team pretty much all season. I don't get now how like Miami didn't even get like an at-large bid. Very, very confusing stuff with college football, bud.
Can I make it even more confusing?
Sure.
Every team that got a bye lost.
They all lost.
Every single one.
Every single one, man. That's no debate. Like not
And
a
then,
single one of them got a victory.
and then to make it even more fun, every team that was at home in the first round won.
That's very interesting. And to me, it tells you that like those 4 teams in the wild card round were clearly better, and clearly at least half of them should have been top 4 seeded teams in the playoff.
Yep. Like I am so puzzled by how any of this worked. Like no one can explain it to me. They've
Oh yeah,
overexplained it a lot, and I'm just kind of like we know that the home teams won. We know that the teams that got buys lost. We know that a lot of the teams that were in this were literally blown out. I mean,
oh yeah,
first round, Texas beat Clemson by 14. Ohio State obliterated Tennessee. Penn State made SMU lose by 4 touchdowns. Notre
right.
Dame beat Indiana by 10. Notre Dame comes in and beats Georgia by 13. Boise
Yeah,
gets beat by 17. Oregon, the number 1 team in the country, got beat by 20. The only game that was close was Texas and Arizona State.
yeah.
And I
I
would
think
not on my bingo card, I would not have picked Texas and Arizona State as the game to watch.
Oh, totally. No, I'm totally with you on that. Once I was getting notified on my phones saying that Texas and Arizona State was close, my mind was blown, man. That took me back to my childhood when I first got into sports, and the national title game was Ohio State against Arizona State. Like
Yeah.
that's how long it's been since Arizona State has been good, and that was back with I think Jake the Snake.
Oh, Jake Plummer.
Yeah, Jake Plummer,
I
man.
mean,
That's where it's at.
even that game was 17-8 going into the fourth quarter. So
Wow.
like it wasn't like
Yeah.
some
It wasn't
crazy.
close.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe the
I
refs
mean,
just kind of said, "Hey, let's make this one a little closer because people aren't going to believe stuff." It was
I think
24-8 at one point.
yeah, I think that's the thing, is like where like this expansion is nice, but you still have to realize that like basically college football is basically dominated by about 10 to a dozen schools.
Yep.
Like that's it. It's really 10 to a dozen. So I think they should have taken this group and like done some kind of reseeding. And I know that's what we did in fantasy football this year for us, and it actually worked out really well, where we ended up getting the first place team against the third place team after top 8. But I look at this and I'm like, all right, Oregon definitely should have been 1. I think Georgia should have been 2, and then some combination of like Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame. Those should be your other 2 teams that get a first round bye. And then I'm sorry, but Southern Methodist and Indiana, I don't know why they were in this. They both had really bad schedules. Whenever they played against really good teams, they just absolutely got demolished. Um, I think both Miami and probably Alabama probably should have been in.
See, and that's the thing though is so SMU. Okay, I get that they were ranked 12th, but they did win their conference championship, and you want the conference championship to mean something, right?
Right.
But Georgia
But
was
they're
the
in a
number 2 team in the country for the
yeah,
like most of the season, and they
yeah.
got the doors blown off of them. Where you're like, oh, uh, all right, I thought they were better than that.
I
Like,
can't negate that though. Like I can't like penalize them for getting a 2 seed because of the results of the game that they actually played.
yeah.
I think for sure Oregon and Georgia are top 2 for sure.
See, I would have said Oregon and Ohio State. Only reason Ohio State they lost to Oregon, like
Yeah. Yes.
and then they come back with a little bit of coaching, a little bit of, fire and juice under them, and they completely just exposed Oregon. And you're like, oh, this was the number 1 team the entire year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very, very interesting. And not only that, like I also saw too, like I know they were number 1 undefeated, but you have a massive downgrade at quarterback. Like Bo Nix, they needed Bo Nix. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I I mean, the only team that really, in a sense, got snubbed, if you're looking just at rankings and standings and stuff like that,
Yeah.
I mean, Tennessee had to play Ohio State in the first round.
Tough.
Yeah. But then
Very
again,
tough.
every team got blown out in the first round. So it was like
Yeah.
maybe they had just got blown out by someone else. But Ohio
Yeah.
State seems like it's on a mission. And Ryan Day's over there. There's all this talk about him getting fired. And now it's just, oh, well, they're going to win the national championship. So,
Yeah. And not only that, people going into that were picking Tennessee left and right. I wasn't hearing anyone saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to pick Ohio State for XYZ."
yeah.
You like Tennessee was projected to be a really solid team from the SEC, basically the second best team from the SEC, and there is no other SEC teams that made the playoff. I do agree with you that it's nice to have the conference championship games mean something, but to me, this shouldn't just become like college basketball where some of these really really good teams get just pushed to the side for certain conferences. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I can't justify the American Athletic Conference champion getting an automatic bid. I
See, but
can't do that.
this is the problem, though. So if you look at the college football playoff rankings at the end of the season, like when they were set and ready to go, every single team except an independent in Notre Dame, the Mountain West, which is Boise State, and SMU, who is the ACC, every other team is Big Ten and SEC. And
Yeah.
as the further you go down, then you add a Big 12 team in Arizona State. That's how they got in.
Yep.
But then it's just, and then Miami, and then again, we're talking 15 teams. It's all SEC and all Big Ten. So at a certain point, it's almost like, man, just put them in their own world and let everybody else play football. Because
Right.
they kind of just proved, and now that we're down to the final 3, well, guess what? One is SEC, one is an independent, and 2 are Big Ten.
Yeah. So the thing that I was thinking on this too is like Ohio State blew the doors off of Indiana.
Yep.
Indiana just has no business being in this whatsoever. I just don't understand why in the world they ever put Indiana ahead of Miami.
They only lost one game. That's where it came down to at the end of the day. Miami lost 2 and Indiana lost 1.
And the one game they lost, they got obliterated by Ohio State.
Yep. But then you think about it, they basically mauled everybody they played. I mean, They played UCLA. They beat them by 30. They played Maryland. They beat them by 14. They played Northwestern 17. Nebraska 49. Washington 14. Michigan State 37. Michigan they beat by 5. Who, by the way, beat Ohio State.
I'll give you
And,
that. That's fair.
and
That's a
then
good one.
and then Purdue they beat by 66. So
Yeah. So the thing is too with the Big Ten is it now has problems that the SEC has, where the Big Ten now is truly dominated by the West Coast teams, and then it's only 3 other teams in the Big Ten are good, like legit good year in year out, and that's Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. Those 3.
yeah,
Everything else is like second tier, like we're talking like American Athletic Conference if we want to be legit. Like
and
that's what it is.
and that's one of the big problems I had with them combining more conferences and kind of just eating up. Like as a Badger fan, okay, we had a slight chance every year to maybe make a little noise and get to the
Big Ten
Big Ten
championship.
championship, and then we'd get blown out. It happened
Yeah.
every year.
Yep.
We understood our place.
Yeah.
Well, now you look at the teams. Well, now we got to battle with Oregon. We got to battle with USC. We got to battle with Washington, UCLA. Okay, well, I just named 4, and then we talk about the original Big Ten teams of Penn State, Indiana, Ohio State, Illinois, Iowa, Michigan. That's 10 teams right there. That okay, so the best we can do is possibly 10.
Yes. Yep. And that's why like some people have come up to me and said like, oh man, like the Badgers, like I thought they were going to be so much better this year. And then I lay it out like you do and say, okay, nowadays in the Big Ten, that's probably the 10th to 12th best team in the conference.
Yeah.
And there's nothing truly innovative about Wisconsin yet. It's still been a regional, localized school that is not reaching out outwards. The only chance with that is Luke Fickell to reaching down to the Ohio River Valley. But again, each year that goes by makes that claim one more year less applicable. So it's getting to the point that the teams that are going to do the best are going to be the teams that understand the transfer portal and understand how to run their programs like a professional sports franchise, which is now what's going on with NIL and which is now what is going on with these schools that are hiring full-time dedicated general managers for various sports. That's your only way that you can compete on a national level.
Look at Bill Belichick. He brought in a general manager to North Carolina. So
Totally.
like he gets it right out of the gate. He gets it. I mean, when you're looking at stuff like this, though, I'm hoping we can be a little better when it comes to basketball, which, believe it or not, basketball plays just about everybody. You don't really just beat up a bunch of cupcakes and then now everybody wants to get in. But
and it's hard to play. It's hard to get a hard schedule to be honest.
Yeah, look at Wisconsin. Yeah, look at Wisconsin's schedule though. Just in football, so they had a couple cupcakes. Cool. Then we played Alabama, USC, Purdue, Rutgers, and Northwestern. We beat. Then we played Penn State, Iowa, Oregon, Nebraska, Minnesota.
That's your season.
Yep.
Are those 4 teams?
Yeah. You get your handful of wins. You get a little bit of an upset game in 1 or 2, and then we're talking 6 games tops, and we won 5.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it shows you that like you have to be a little bit more dedicated and more vigilant on building a corporation for these teams instead of saying, yep, we can just pick up so-and-so from a local school and we should be able to compete at least within our conference. Those days are gone. That will not work in today's D1 football or college hoops on any level, to be honest. And I mean, shoot, yesterday before the football games, I was watching college hoops between Arkansas and Tennessee, And boy, does that show. When it shows, when you got guys that can nationally recruit and pick up guys, both Tennessee and Arkansas. And Arkansas is now John Calipari, no longer Eric Musselman, because he got promoted. So seeing that kind of work going into building a program yesterday was pretty cool. I mean, Tennessee is still the best ranked team in the nation, but I like seeing that.
Nice. So I guess we can make like some fun college picks, I guess.
Right? I guess we can.
Who do you got with Ohio State and Texas?
So I know everyone's saying Ohio State, but man, I like Texas. I like the way that they've built that program over the last couple of years. I know Chip Kelly and that big DK Metcalf-ish kind of wideout they got is solid. But I'm gonna take Texas.
You know what? I really want to go Texas, but Ohio State. It's so weird. They're so good.
They are.
But then they fall apart at certain times. Texas's only loss was to number 2 Georgia.
Yeah.
Texas was the number 3 team in the country for a reason.
Yep.
Well, Ohio State lost to Oregon, who they came back and smashed, and Michigan.
Totally.
It's at least at this point, it's kind of fun where you're like, I don't really know, but I'm kind of with you. I really like Texas. Maybe the quarterback there can move his stock up.
Yeah, I think so. I really think you are onto something with that. That this guy who, to be honest, the world is betting against, just keeps persevering and proving us wrong. And I'd love to see that momentum continue.
Everyone wants Arch Manning to just get in there and get it done.
Oh, yep, totally.
Notre Dame and Penn State.
Boy, this is one of those games where I want to say like this is now Penn State's year, but there's something going on with Notre Dame, man. Like he is flipping that program around since getting the reins after the previous coach left. I like Notre Dame in this one.
I mean, they kept every team under 14 points except 2 in the entire season.
That's insane.
And they lost to Northern Illinois of all people or all teams.
Weird. Yeah, that's right.
Then they went and just smashed Army, Navy, USC, Louisville, like Stanford. Any team that was on the schedule just got beat. Texas A&M was another one. They beat a lot of ranked teams.
Yeah.
But I'm with James Franklin, the coach of Penn State. Every single season, they get really far. And then, of course, they run into the Ohio States, the Michigans. Well, they don't have to play any of those, especially if we have Ohio State beating Texas. I'm going Penn State.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the thing, like Notre Dame, like they're basically like this team that like they're an independent, yet they want to be like they got 1 foot with the Big Ten and 1 foot with the ACC. So it's kind of weird with how they do things. But yeah, I'm with you, man. The fact that like Notre Dame kept all these teams under 14 points, and then basically like I know they played their schedule and it is what it is. But playing against Army and Navy, and Army was like top 25 this year, and like their offense was cooking. To go back-to-back military schools is pretty impressive in my opinion.
So Texas A&M was ranked 20th, Louisville was 15th, Navy was 24th, Army is 19th.
That's a tough schedule, man. And it may not show with you getting just the wins off of those 2 military schools. But to get the wins after the military schools, which are going to play you tough and beat you up, and you're going to leave those games more bruised than you entered, it is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I like Penn State's the little engine that could, and as long as they don't have to play Ohio State, I think they've got a shot.
Okay, all right. Well, that's interesting. I mean, to me, I think the intrigue factor of a Texas Notre Dame to me is like crazy intriguing. That's what I'm enamored by.
I'm with you. 4 of these teams were in the top 6, so we're
Yeah,
pretty close to having the best teams that were possible.
absolutely. Yeah, I think we're spot on getting that. It's just weird that the path that they took to get there.
Yeah, obviously one had to play. Uh, Ohio State had to beat Oregon, and Notre Dame had to beat Georgia. So,
Yeah.
and to be honest, Georgia only scored 10 points. Notre Dame might have the best defense in the whole shindig.
Yeah. And the whole thing I was hearing before the playoffs is basically Penn State got 2 byes. Like they're basically in the national semifinals immediately out of the gates because you're getting slated against SMU, which is a borderline Division I team, and Boise State, which plays in the Mountain West.
Wait a minute. I mean, both of those teams were ranked top 10 in the country. Boise State was 8th or 9th, and SMU was 10th.
Yeah, they got no business being top 10. If SMU is legit in the Big 12 or the SEC, then we'll talk. But they're playing what in the American Athletic Conference, or are they an ACC team? Like, what conference is SMU nowadays?
They are ACC.
Oh, okay. So ACC. So yeah, I'm still like that's a weird conference. That's a conference that basically only has 1 to 2 good football teams per season. That's a sham conference, man. It really is. It's like a bunch of independents, to be honest, when it comes to football.
They beat Pittsburgh and Louisville. I mean, those are top 25 teams.
Those aren't schools. Those are nice middle of the nation independent schools.
But yeah, Penn State. I mean, hey, they kept the Heisman runner up to 3.5 yards a carry.
That's yeah. I mean, like Ashton Gentry and Boise State is awesome, but that is not a top 4 team in terms of seeding for the college football playoff. That's just crazy.
At least they got a cool field. Can we say that?
They have a cool field. They run some cool stuff. I would have loved to seen Boise State maybe play Ohio State. Maybe they get the doors blown off them, but something like that, or maybe probably Notre Dame wouldn't have had a top 4 seed, something like that. I think definitely Penn State or Texas would have absolutely had those byes if we would have reseeded. And to me, that would have been justified. I think we would have gotten a cool Arizona State probably victory in probably their first round game. And probably maybe even Boise State could have pulled an upset, but just getting paired against Penn State for their first game was just a disaster waiting to happen.
Hey, they were going to have to play someone at some point. Might as well get them blown out right away.
That's unfortunately that's no debate.
Should we run down the NFL slate?
Yeah, let's run down the NFL slate, and I'll definitely give you a shout out to I got this crazy 8 game parlay going, but I only need 6 out of 8 to hit, and I had both games yesterday hit. So I need 4 out of these 6 games to hit, and we'll talk about them when they pop up.
Okay. Well, let's run your parlay right now. Let's do those out the gate.
All right, let's do this out of the gate. And we'll lead off with your team, Green Bay against Chicago. And again, I am not in favor of Green Bay playing starters outright throughout this game. I think that's going to catch up to you at some point, some way throughout. I mean, you're basically then saying that this game is a playoff game today, and it's not, and that's not right. If you want to do it right, treat this like a preseason game and get your starters, get them mojo, get that confidence going, maybe a drive or two, cool. But for Green Bay to be favored by 10 in a game that is meaningless to me is just crazy. So for that reason, that's why I picked Chicago to cover by 10 points. But if Green Bay puts their starters out there this whole game, I am concerned about this pick.
I'm with you, and I don't think they'll play the whole game.
Okay.
Everything I've heard, like they have a lot of inactives today. They just posted. We got Quay Walker out, Evan Williams, Zane Anderson, Andre Dillard, who's an offensive lineman. Romeo Dobbs isn't playing. Like
Okay.
I don't see them playing everybody just
Yeah.
because we're kind of where we are.
Yeah, you're going to be going to Philadelphia next week. Everyone knows
Now,
that.
and that's the tough part though. So now when you're looking up at the scoreboard, because I'm pretty sure that game is where was it? That game's at the same time. So I think
Yeah, you're
they'll
going to
play
Philly.
their if Washington loses though, I think we move up, right? Isn't that how it goes?
Yeah, and I do so yeah, if you win and Washington loses, you move up. Great, you don't go to Philly. Now you go to the third ranked team, which would be the winner of the South.
Yeah, which
Winnable.
I would be much more excited to go there.
Yeah.
Now don't get me
Yeah,
wrong. I
that's
think
true.
we could give Philly a run, but
You'd rather get a South team
yeah.
out of the
So
gates.
yeah, you might have to play your guys until at least halftime, but
Right.
you just keep your eyes on that scoreboard because you never know what Dallas shows up. Dallas has been beating teams lately, and I don't actually know why.
And speaking of which, that is my next game in the parlay, and I am picking the Dallas Cowboys for that reason, because this is another meaningless game, to be honest. And I like the way Dallas has been playing lately. I would love to see Mike McCarthy just stick it to Jerry Jones on the way out
Yeah.
and get another W.
Now, in that sense, though, it's not meaningless because does Washington want to go play? Do they want to go play Philly in Philly?
Um, knowing that team, I think they'd be okay with it. Yeah,
Because yeah,
it's a team in your division, so yeah, you're okay with it.
they got beat at home by Philly by more than a touchdown, and then they just squeaked out a win against Philly on that crazy like nonsense
Oh
that happened
yeah.
at the end of the game.
Oh, I
And
love
they
that
were
game. Yeah, totally. Go to Philly
but,
and knock the
but
doors off them again.
but they were playing against Kenny Pickett. So and they
That's
barely
true.
won against Kenny Pickett. I'm
They
just
did.
saying.
Yeah.
I,
No, that's true. I'll give you that.
yeah,
But
and Jaden Daniels
yeah,
had to throw 5 touchdowns. That's
he
like
did. He
that's
absolutely did. That was a bananas game. Totally, man.
so
Totally
remember
bananas game.
we were on that Philly team or that in that game we were all about Philly. Saquon had 150 and 2 touchdowns. They
Yeah, he had
literally
a
could
game.
not stop that man.
They could not. And I think you're spot on that if that matchup occurs and a healthy Jalen Hurts, that could just spell just all sorts of problems for Washington.
So I'm hoping Dallas comes to play, but again, you never know. What
Yeah,
do you got? Washington +7 or Dallas
actually
+7?
I just need Dallas to cover. I need Dallas to either lose by 5 or less or get the win.
Oh, you're at 5. Okay, I'm seeing
Yeah.
7.
Oh, so it's moved even further.
Yeah.
So more people are picking Dallas, and I picked this on I want to say Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, I placed these bets on Thursday.
Okay.
So yeah, I just need Dallas to either get the win or lose by 5 or less.
So I'm with you. I want Dallas to win. All right, we're in the
Uh-huh.
same boat.
Okay, there we go. All right, next game up on my docket is Indianapolis and Jacksonville. And because, again, I love Joe Flacco, I am just outright picking Indianapolis against garbage Mac Jones and Jacksonville.
Well, I got Indy at plus or a -3.5. So yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah.
By the way,
totally.
$5 tickets
For that game?
Absolutely. I'm not even making this up. Lucas Oil Stadium. Man, why didn't we go watch the Jacksonville Jaguars play?
I know. Yeah, like at some point we're gonna have to do this. Like, yeah, at some point we have to go to like one of these garbage games that's in like a nearby city and just enjoy it. Because not only that game's indoors. You don't have to worry about the elements. And good food.
Dude, you can get end zone 100 level for $39.
All right, yeah, we're gonna have to do better next year, DJ Triggs, and we'll have to figure this out.
I'm blown away right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It should be like Fan Fest in Indianapolis because you're gonna at least see some ball you enjoy, and it's in a friendly confine.
Yeah, yeah, and it's nice. It's
It
not even
is.
cold outside because you're inside.
Exactly. That's no
All right,
joke.
what's next? What do you got?
All right. Next. So I see I did this. I'm kind of regretting, but I've also seen the spread get even further away. Man, I'm a little nervous about this one. Because initially I was thinking that I was picking Denver to cover. Instead, it's kind of like the Baltimore game yesterday where I need them to win by a lot. Is Denver winning by 10.5 at home against Kansas City backups?
So, this is the one game that I'm going to be against here.
Yeah,
We don't want Denver to win. Remember, we want Joe Burrow out there
I
in
know.
the playoffs.
And after I saw that, I'm like, whoops, that's a typo. I was hoping Denver would like at least cover and like lose by not that. But again, it's backups. So this whole line is screwy. I think this is a game that everyone is thinking that Denver is going to win against Kansas City backups. And I think this game could be like tooth and nail, really, really close. I think this is where if you got sneaky and picked the Kansas City side, I think that game could actually play out favorably for Kansas City bettors.
Carson Wentz is a man. Just
Yeah,
saying.
he's legit. Now that I'm looking at this, I'm like, whoops, that was a typo. I just flat out screwed up on,
But you need
I got
6
root
of
for
8.
it.
You need 6 of 8.
I
So
need 6 of 8. So if that's one that I lose on, I can live with that.
I'm okay with that, and I'm okay if Bo Nix just goes bananas because we're Bo Nix guys on this show.
We are exactly. So that's a fun game. Either way. The next one I got here are my Las Vegas Raiders. Given 4.5 points against the Chargers.
Okay, so you're picking them to win by 4.5?
No, to at least lose by 4.5 or
Okay.
less, or outright win.
Huh.
Yeah, so it's basically even money, like either way. So I was like, hey, just give me the points.
I'm not against that. For some reason, your Raiders have just been like the toughest team to figure out because
Yes.
one day they'll show up and you're like, oh, that's a football team over there, and then the next week you're like, is this a college team or did they just not play? And
unfortunately, that's what Gardner Minshew did.
And the Chargers game, the first week, it was close for a while, and then the Chargers pulled away. But now you got, I don't know who's your quarterback. I don't know who's playing at running back. I can't name a receiver. But they just beat the Saints and the Jaguars.
Exactly. Yeah, those are not the greatest football teams, and I'm totally okay with that. But we're playing against backups on the Chargers. Again, to me, this is a game that is meaningless for LA. LA should be gearing up and saying, yep, we're going to go play Baltimore. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Remember, Pittsburgh lost. So Pittsburgh's behind them no matter what. No one's going to catch them. They can just do nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So for that reason, I like this being a meaningless game. Give it to the team that's actually going out there fighting for something with us. So I like that.
By the way, I'm upset with your team. Because they beat Jacksonville, they got the tiebreaker and moved ahead of Jacksonville. You guys need a quarterback. Why do you keep winning football games against bad teams?
Exactly. That's exactly where we're at now. But I think you got to see the development of Aiden O'Connell. You got to see him get better and grow, and he has that opportunity now. You got to have more than one quarterback. I like the quarterback names that you listed earlier. I would just either we do make a sneaky play and we do draft one of those, or we figure out that we can get one of those in the second round. That's where I'm at with that strategy.
I'm okay with that. But then you could have taken Travis Hunter number 1.
Travis Hunter. But the thing is, like, Aiden O'Connell has to win games for his sake. He has to.
I mean, but they could have taken the wide receiver at number 1. I would have been okay with that. I assumed somebody big name was going to Las Vegas, and they were going to put him in up against the casino walls and everywhere, and he would have been on the ground with the the night walkers, it would have been
Yes.
amazing. He would have gotten in
It's
trouble
coming.
like every other week, especially if it
Yes.
was Shador Sanders. Him and his
Oh, yeah.
dad could have been in trouble every day.
Yes. And I think that would be like amazing for that to happen. I would love to see that. It's just
But
not going to happen.
now that you guys are like 5th or 6th, you might as well win another game.
Exactly. At this point, we're so far back that just keep winning games, make it look better for Aiden O'Connell and Antonio Pierce. You don't know about your job security in this league, so keep winning games and you'll maintain that.
Desmond Ritter's sniffing down his spine right now.
Oh man, I would have been with you on the start Desmond Ritter every single game because he will never win games.
Yeah,
Pat.
I was there.
Yeah.
All right, who we got next?
Last game I got on the parlay is New York Giants going out in style and getting an outright victory against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not against that. Yeah. Philly deserves that because not letting Saquon go out there and try to get that record, I understand, most of us old heads would have been like, hey, it was 17 games, doesn't count. But and then people would make fun of us because, Dickerson got in 16 and was it Jim Brown got in 14 or was it OJ? Jim Brown, I think, right?
I know. Actually, I know what O.J. Simpson did when it comes to the records of rushing. The belief is from the people who really know this is that the O.J. Simpson record on that standings is actually more impressive.
Yeah,
it's the most impressive because he did it in such a short time that no one is going to be able to touch that record ever. More than likely.
No, and I was trying to think how they did it. I think it was per yards or something like that.
Yeah.
His is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So
I don't know.
I'm glad Philly's taking the foot off the brakes and they're prepping and giving rest, and they need it. They definitely need it. And plus, how they ended last year with AJ Brown, they saw how it looks when you go just pedal to the floor and it catches up to you kind of thing. But again, too, back then they were on a massive losing skid. They didn't have anything going right for them last year. So they were going to do that. But this season they do have everything going right for them. It's just a matter of putting that much more tread on Saquon's tires, I think would catch up to them.
Wow. Just looked it up here. OJ was averaging 6 yards a carry.
Jeez, man, that's insane. That is just insane right there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, I just have this gut feeling that almost either path that they want to go down with Saquon, whether it's playing him and he gets hurt or benching him, he doesn't get the record, and then they fall short against Green Bay. It almost feels like both paths are set for failure for Philly, in my opinion. And I've been thinking that since almost week 1 against Green Bay.
Yeah, just did some quick math. If OJ would have had 16 games, he would have been 200 yards more. That's 184 yards more than what Eric Dickerson had.
Yeah. So the fact that OJ did it with that few games back when, that tells you that is pretty much the record. That's the real record right there.
I agree. Yeah. But anywho, yeah. So the Eagles deserve it. I'm with you. Eagles lose that game to the Giants.
Yep. So that's everything I got there. So yeah, I would say I might be looking good on all these, but the one that definitely concerns me the most is the Denver Kansas City one, and then followed by the Chicago Green Bay game.
Completely understandable.
Yeah. So that's everything I got for the parlay. The one game I was kind of thinking about the parlay, but I just didn't have a good read on it, and I'm kind of confused by it, is the Texans against the Titans. I'm really confused about that game.
That's a good call. The Titans
meaningless game for Texans,
and the Titans are favored by 3. So
Yeah, and they look bad no matter who's playing quarterback.
true. And to be honest, they need a quarterback because apparently Will Levis, he failed us both. We really liked him, but
Yeah.
they're a 3-win team. And the other teams in that like spot are definitely looking to lose. So
Yeah, this team is going to draft Cam Ward, in my opinion.
yep, I'm with you. And then
So
they're gonna break it.
yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Like he might be like that second coming of Steve McNair, and I know they've always been looking for that man. They really have always been looking for that. They
Yeah,
have
it's
not replaced him in all that time since then.
been a long time.
Yep.
Been a long time.
So I think we're both taking the Texans probably just straight up on the money line. Oh, actually, it's about even, so might as well take the spread. They're both basically even money.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Houston over them. I don't know who Houston's got. Is Davis still back there?
I have no idea, but I'm with you on just taking Texans on the complete unknown.
Oh, actually, the starters look like they're gonna play.
For the Texans?
Yep, the inactives that I'm seeing right now uh, is Jeff. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He was drafted by the Lions. What is it? Ukoda?
Oh, Jeff Okuda.
Akuda. There we go.
Yeah, use that
Uh,
corner.
Will Anderson, a couple offensive linemen, a couple defensive linemen. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Then in that case, then Texans by more than 2.5 looks good. But they're already projected as an underdog. So if you can get, oh man, it even got even better. It's now even money on ESPN Bet.
Davis Mills is the backup. So,
That's fine.
by the way, since this is my new favorite thing to do every week, the lowest ticket in all of football is now in Nashville, Tennessee. $3 for the 300 level.
Yeah. Are they also dealing with the blizzard that's rolling through there?
I don't know, but $3. Like,
yeah, I'd rather just go to Indianapolis.
Me too, but $3. Like
$3. Yeah, I just wonder about the weather right there. I mean, shoot, let's run the gambit on this and pull up the Weather Channel app and see
I'm
what is it
scrolling
in.
through. This is crazy. The entire 300 level is $5 or less.
Gotcha. Yeah, it actually looks like that weather is just about to roll in.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. I won't go to that game. No way.
This sounds even more bananas. The 100 level, $9
Yeah,
in the end zone.
Yeah, that tells you that you got some bad football going on.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where this. I want to see the view. Oh, this is nuts. The $9 view is amazing.
I believe it. I believe it.
Why are we not in Tennessee right now?
Because we should have been in Indianapolis.
Yeah, that's also true because that would have been indoors.
Yes. Yeah. And this time of year, especially with that storm rolling through the south, yeah, you don't want to be in Nashville. I'll tell you that.
I'm gonna figure out a way to just start bouncing weeks. Just trying to figure. I'm gonna take off like every Friday.
There you go.
Go to random football games for $3.
Yeah, that's
gonna be like,
that's
where are you
totally
sitting?
possible.
Where are you sitting? I'm in the 300 level, but it was $3. Like, who's gonna argue with you about that?
No one. No one. That's no debate. That's just flat out no debate. A game that's slightly meaningful and slightly meaningless. The Panthers go on the road to Atlanta, and bless you. And looks like the Falcons are projected to win by 7.5. Just out of spite, I would just go Carolina, and I probably
yeah. We're all about Carolina on this show. Carolina needs to win more games because clearly they don't want the number one pick. So whatever.
Yeah, and again too, David Tepper, crazy owner. So if you're Dave Canales, like you're sweating bullets today, I'll tell you that.
But then again, it is kind of messed up that the two teams that are fighting for the South both had to play Carolina in the last 2 weeks. Like what? Carolina deserves better.
Yeah, they do. Boy, look at this projected spread. Tampa Bay projected to win by 15 against New Orleans.
Well, they just beat Carolina by like 30, so sure.
Yeah. This might be one of those games where I think I probably should have bet on in terms of Baltimore, but I've never been that confident in betting with massive odds-on favorites. So I'm starting to open my eyes to that today, and this Tampa Bay game to me is definitely one of those.
Yeah, Tampa Bay in the last like 6 or 7 weeks have not scored less than 26.
Oh,
On the
okay.
flip
Yeah.
side, and most of those games they put up like 40. On
Yeah.
the flip side, New Orleans they got blanked. They were the only shutout all year.
Yeah. And I saw Spencer Rattler play last week. I liked what I saw, but it's going to take him more time, more growth. Yeah, Tampa Bay. Yeah, they're going to throw some stuff at him today. I'll tell you that. That team is just not. They don't have anything going for them on offense outside of their tight ends.
And Tampa needs to win because if Tampa wins, like they're going to the playoffs. So
yep, they're in.
They're coming out there flinging it across the yard. And Baker Mayfield, by the way, don't know if I brought this up last week. Are you ready for this? This excitement? Do you see the excitement in my voice and in my face?
Oh, I see.
I know we're going a little long, but this is a pretty big deal. I told you last week that only a certain like handful of guys have ever thrown 40 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson joined that list last night at 41. Yep. Baker Mayfield needs 1 touchdown.
Oh, he's getting it.
He's getting it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I kind of almost want to bet the farm that he throws 1 touchdown.
You should.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah, I'll see if I can do that in underdog.
Now, Jared Goff and Sam Darnold, by the way, they're at 36 and 35. So if we have a complete like barn burner for the big game, they might both join the 40 touchdown club.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think that game is going to be lower scoring than people think it'll be, though.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. And by the way, every other quarterback after 5, including Josh Allen, is at 28 or lower.
Yeah. Also, sneaky thing, too, I wonder, too, if that game ever gets somewhat one-sided on either way, especially going into the fourth quarter, if the other team starts to pull guys back. I could see that happen.
Yeah, why not?
So, betting-wise, how that works, I don't know, but just keep your eye on that. That might happen.
Yeah.
All right. Next game, we got Mitch and the Trubisky's against Drake and the Mays. And Trubisky's are favored by 3.
You want to know something terrible? I didn't even know what team he played on. When you said Mitch Trubisky, I'm like, he's on a team?
Oh yeah. He's on a team that he actually played really well as a backup. When he was given the starting reins in Pittsburgh, it went bad. But when he became a backup for this team, he played incredibly well as a backup.
I'm going to go Buffalo just because I don't think New England cares.
Yeah, I think New England. Yeah, I think these guys are checked out totally. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I would take Buffalo just winning for sake of, hey, we're backups. We finally get a chance to shine, and let's go for it.
Yeah, New England's basically got the best odds to be the number 1 pick. Get themselves a Travis Hunter. They don't really have much else to play for, so why would they? I mean, now I could be wrong because there could be incentives out there and bonuses. I've seen some crazy ones out there. Sure. I think the biggest bonus I seen was like $3.5 million, but like, yeah. Oh, wait a minute.
Speaking of 3.5, the spread actually just moved to 3.5 in favor of Buffalo. So more people are piling on Buffalo to blow out New England.
So I'm seeing a post here. Hunter Henry's out. Like, there's a bunch of dudes out.
Yeah, that tells you a team is kind of putting up the white flag to try to lose.
It says the Patriots could get a look at rookie quarterback Joe Milton. So
Oh yeah, I like that guy.
we might not even
He's from
see.
Tennessee.
We might not see Drake May or Jacoby Brissett. We
Oh,
might
that's
get
interesting.
Joe Milton.
I like that. Yeah, Joe Milton's cool. I would like to see. Wow, I'm actually kind of intrigued to watch this game now.
The fact that you knew he was from Tennessee when he got picked 193rd is why you're Steve Metrics.
That's no debate. Yeah, I was hoping I was hoping my Raiders would draft him as well.
I can't find anything on this guy.
Oh, he was balling it up last year, man. He was good.
Yeah, but they're saying he might get a Lipsky.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. That's cool. So yeah, if there's a bunch of like weird, wonky, meaningless games, yeah, I'll totally flip on Bills Patriots.
Huh,
That's cool.
all right. I'm with the Bills there. If Joe Milton, if he starts, I'm going Patriots. But
yeah, that's sneaky.
But
yeah,
I
that's a
hope
wild
they
game,
don't.
man. Yeah, I know. Well, we'll see. But yeah, that'll be a fun watch just for giggles. Okay, we've done Commanders Cowboys, we've done Jaguars Colts, we've done Giants Eagles, we've done Bears Packers. Going out west for, I think this is basically the NFC West title game. Seahawks at the Rams. This is a legit. Oh, actually, I heard the Rams are pulling back a bunch of guys from what I've heard.
Whoa. I didn't even know this game was happening.
Yeah, this game is happening. Man.
Oh, Seahawks are out.
Favored by like 7.
Yeah, Seahawks are out. The Rams are locked into where they are.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, then yeah, if that's the case, you need Seahawks. Oh, dang. Seahawks are favored by 7. Yeah, I would just I would stay clear of that game.
Yeah.
I get weird vibes on that game. I would not touch that game one bit.
I'm definitely with you there. Yeah. I have a boss, or not really a boss. What is he? He's some sort of management level that I help with.
Sure.
He is a big Seahawks fan, and I had to convince him that the Seahawks are eliminated, and he didn't believe me. But they are eliminated.
That's no debate.
I'm wondering who's going to start and play for the Rams.
Rams, I believe I heard, is Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, well, look at that.
Yeah.
Why didn't Stetson Bennett get some run?
That is intriguing to me. That I wonder, because maybe it's like more. Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. Stetson Bennett probably should be the one playing this game.
Yeah. Well, all right. I'm going to go Seahawks because maybe Geno Smith has something to play for.
Yeah, maybe.
I wonder who his backup is.
Yeah, and plus Garoppolo is just outright bad. So yeah.
We got Sam Howell is the backup.
Sam Howell can sling it.
Yeah.
So if it's Howell against Garoppolo, I would take Sam Howell.
So to make it better, all of the Rams starters have doubtful next to them. All of the Seahawks have nothing.
Yeah, it's gonna be Seahawks. So Seahawks by 7. I get it.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Dolphins at Jets. Yeah, I would think this is a weird game. I would take the Jets.
Yeah, we need the Dolphins to lose because we're all about Joe Burrow.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, and Jets are going to win this out of spite. Just for everyone there. So it's weird. I got both New York teams trying to win today, just out of spite.
I'm with you there.
Yep. We got 49ers at the Cardinals. Cardinals are a bad football team, and 49ers are really banged up, and they hate the NFL schedulers.
Yeah, I'm just going to go Arizona just because 49ers might not play anybody ever.
That's fine. I'm going to take the 49ers out of spite. That I like. Yeah.
I like that all your picks are spike picks.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, sometimes in week 18, I think that's how you got to roll. Yeah. And then finally, the best game of the weekend by far, Minnesota at Detroit. Um, Basically, everything on this is like even money. Spread is Detroit by 3.
I'm going to go Minnesota. I just think they're the more healthy team. And to be
Sure.
honest, I don't see anyone stopping Jefferson and Addison.
Interesting. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I I probably wouldn't bet this game, but I'd root that way in your way. But for tinfoil hat conspiracy theory sake, I'll take Detroit.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, yeah, because like we know the tinfoil hat conspiracy theory wants to see a Super Bowl between the Lions and the Chiefs.
I hope not.
I'm with you on that though. I don't want to see it.
I want to see two random teams. Like, give me Minnesota and, like, I don't know, Pittsburgh.
How about we make it real crazy? Take all of California and throw it in New Orleans and go Chargers Rams.
Actually, Bengals. Bengals in Minnesota. That's where I'm going.
Oh, there you go. Nice. Yeah, I could see that one. That's a cool game.
I wonder what the money would be to put, like,
I've already done it, and I do have my. Well, we'll talk about that once we hit playoff time. But I do have 3 NFC teams in play for the Super Bowl, and I have possibly 3 AFC teams in the Super Bowl, pending today's outcomes.
Oh, all right.
Exactly.
Super Bowl payout or odds? Odds. Let's go with odds.
Yeah. Because generally, you want to pick a NFC conference champion and an AFC conference champion. And if you parlay those together, then that's your Super Bowl odds pick.
Oh, I'm getting redirected. Here we go. What is this? I'm very. I don't know what rabbit hole I fell down, but I don't know what this means. It's giving me a weird spread, and I don't like it.
Uh-oh.
It's giving me the odds if I put those teams in the Super Bowl, which is not what I wanted.
Okay.
Wow. If they were to play, Cincinnati would be 3-point favorites.
Oh, okay. Interesting. 3-point favorites against Minnesota?
Yep.
Oh, that's wild. That's a weird one because, like, I kind of feel like the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists, the NFL hates Cincinnati, so I would almost pick Minnesota for that, and because I just think Minnesota is the better team.
Yeah. Weird.
Interesting.
Plus 17,000 for Cincinnati to win the Super Bowl.
Nice. Okay. Those aren't bad odds, man, but the thing is their secondary is trash.
Absolute trash.
As we saw yesterday, their secondary was trash, and still Pittsburgh could not score points.
On FanDuel, it's 24,000.
Yeah, I would not touch that at all. If you bet on that, they are stealing your money, man.
I mean, if you put $10 in there, whatever.
Hey, I like Cincinnati to pull an upset, but for Cincinnati to win the whole thing, no way. They're going to run into a team that can play both great defense and great offense, and they cannot do both.
True story.
So there you go. I think that's no debate, man.
Better bets. Oh, if you wagered. Okay, so if you pick these two to be in the game, 25,000 for these two teams to play. Oh my gosh!
Who you got?
All right, this is getting crazy. Oh no, it's 32,700 plus 32,700, and then if you picked the Cincinnati Bengals, 25,000.
Yeah. I mean, it's not bad, but yeah. Like if you chuck a few bucks at it, sure. But also to Vegas and the casinos, they are prepared for this.
Yeah.
So they are prepared to be able to profit off that. And again, too, I always feel when it gets to the Super Bowl that there's so much money involved that I do feel the sports officials, between that and the way the NFL feels that they can generate most profits in years following the Super Bowl, I feel those two factors actually have a massive pull into determining the outcome of the actual Super Bowl.
Yeah. Now, the fun part about this, the reason why I know this right down to the penny, someone on August 12th, Caesar Sportsbook and Casino posted that on August 12th, a bettor in New Jersey wagered $250 that the Bengals would beat the Vikings in the Super Bowl. His potential payout is $62,000.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I thought it would be a little bit more than that, but okay, that's cool.
I thought so too, but the Bengals might have had a higher odds in August, and the Vikings might have had a lower odd. But
much lower. He's getting the maximum multiplier from the Vikings side.
Yeah, most definitely.
Because the Vikings were probably picked to be borderline last place in the NFC North.
Yep.
So there you go, man.
Well, that's all I got. I'm just in the rabbit hole.
Hey, he's in the rabbit hole. Eventually, we'll take this metal hat and we'll eventually have our own tinfoil hat conspiracy theories for the future. Maybe we can sell tinfoil hats online one day.
I don't know how to do that.
Just like the Tin Man, right? Maybe like we make them cool and they're like baseball hat tinfoil hats.
Ooh, solid.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that's some debate going on for the future. Like 100% debate because they're tinfoil hat conspiracy hats. So
that's what we say.
I like it, man. But hey, I'm Steve Metrics. That's your boy
DJ Triggs,
and that's no debate.